Hello, welcome to this video where I'm gonna go over the moveset updates that were just announced at the time of recording. That is 1 hour and a half ago. I expected the moveset updates not to be much, but they actually dropped something that does impact a lot of Pokemon. So a lot of moveset updates, the elemental fangs, punches, and a couple other attacks. We'll go through them soon, but what I really want to show in this video is how many Pokemon are impacted and which Pokemon are impacted and that are going to affect the meta. For the record, at the time of recording, I have no idea what the energy generation of the newly buffed attacks is, nor what energy Bulldos is going to be. And I'm also going through the attacks of Pokemon that matter. Some Pokemon learn the new attacks and they will not be relevant. I will not be going through those. I gave these Pokemon two different colors. Basically, they're the colors that they already have, meaning that they could be relevant. They benefit from the update, and if I whited them out, then they don't really have a lot of relevance, or they don't benefit as much from the update. So in that way, it's easier for you to see for which Pokemon is significant and for which one you probably shouldn't care as much. First off, Fire Fang. Fire is a great offensive typing, but a really weak defensive typing. And that's why I don't think a lot of Fire-type Pokemon are going to gain from this, at least not in the Great League. Arcanine, Darumaka, Darmanitan, and Litleo are Pokemon that learn it, but I don't think will change a lot in them. Arcanine does have a very diverse moveset. It also has access to Psychic Fangs, Wild Charge, and the newly buffed Bulldos. Hippowdon and Mawile. Hippowdon actually is buffed for every league. It has access to all three fangs that are buffed, and it makes it an interesting pick for Master Premier mostly, for Ultra League a little bit as well, but mostly for formats like Show 6 grassroots formats where you can decide the fast attack after seeing the whole matchup, and that can make Hippowdon an extremely good pick there. So I don't think these are kind of the Pokemon that have been buffed. Reshiram can now opt for Fire-type damage output instead of Dragon-type damage output. Salamence is also in its Mega form, of course, and Zacian actually is interesting because if it becomes nearly as good as with Snarl or Quick Attack, you might want to opt for Fire Fang now. That makes it better into other Pokemon like Fairy types, Tapu Bulu, and that sort of stuff. Surprisingly, not a lot of Pokemon in Pokemon Go learn Thunder Fang. There's again Arcanine, there's again Hippowdon. Arcanine for Ultra League, it might be pretty decent there with that diverse moveset, but for Ultra League, it also just has straight up more bulk than it has in Great League. While Steelix is interesting. I don't know if you want to give up Dragon Tail. Dragon Tail's great coverage, but Thunderfang does give you better play into Pokemon like Feraligatr and Azumarill. For Master League, that will be Mega Steelix. Do keep in mind that in the next GBR rotation, we also get Master League Mega Edition again. So Steelix may be relevant there again. Now, Ice Fang is interesting because these Pokemon are already quite meta. Artibax now runs Dragon Breath. You might want to opt for Ice Fang if you want to cover ground-type Pokemon or grass-type Pokemon a little bit better than you already do. Hippowdon, of course. But for Master Premier, Hippowdon with Ice Fang is interesting because it does really well into Pokemon like Dragonite, and with Thunderfang, of course, into Pokemon like Gyarados. Drapion probably still runs Poison Sting just for the same type attack bonus and charging Crunch really quick. But if you find yourself in a matchup or a meta where you see more Dragon type or Pokemon or other Pokemon that are weak to Ice, you might want to run Ice Fang there. Ice Fang might generate a decent amount of energy, so it could be good for Drapion. And then Feraligatr is interesting because Shadow Claw will generate more energy. It's probably preferred simply because you get fast to Hydro Cannon, which is extremely efficient, as we know. But if, again, you run Ice Fang, you swap in and your opponent counter swaps a Grass type immediately, that actually could give Feraligatr much more of an edge right now. Altogether, I do think that the whole moveset change is a nerf to Feraligatr, but it, again, gives a little bit more flexibility. And same for Mawile, there's a little bit more flexibility in its moveset, might depend on the meta as well. Zamazenta is, honestly, I have had it since the very beginning it came out. It's a very mediocre Pokemon. I hope that this makes it a little bit better. Now the punches. This is where it gets more interesting in my opinion. Let's start with Fire Punch again. Darumaka, Dusclops, Hitmonchan, and Lucario. I don't think those Pokemon are super interesting. And for Ultra League, it's probably not going to matter as much at all. Diggersby, probably one of the winners, because it's not the same type of attack bonus for Diggersby, and it's very bulky, meaning that it can spam a lot of these, and it needs it into like Grass type and Ice type Pokemon, making it better into Pokemon like Superior and Alolan Sandslash. That's why I think this is really big for Diggersby. And then Hypno is going to be on every single one of these because Hypno learns pretty much all the punches. I'm not saying it makes Hypno meta relevant immediately because Dark types still are very meta relevant. It just makes it a little bit stronger into Pokemon like Azumarill, Feraligatr, not with Fire Punch, of course, with Thunder Punch, but this helps against Alolan Sandslash Superior. There's a lot of weaknesses you can target with Hypno. Do keep in mind you can only run 2 punches. And then for Master League, There's some mega monster Pokemon that are there, and also Groudon. Groudon needs some more love. It became super overpowered with Precipice Blades when it just got that, and then Lugia came to take a dump on it. Yveltal now does that, so it's not really as good as it used to be. Now kind of becomes a little bit better again. Ursaluna also that kind of Pokemon. I put it in Master League only simply because I think it excels there on its bulk, but Tackle is just so worthless for Ultra League and Grey League on Ursaluna. That's why I only put it there. Where only few Pokemon learn Thunder Fang, a lot of Pokemon learn Thunder Punch. Because I think one of the movesets updates that we had before was kind of a Thunder Punch update, where Pokemon like Chestnut and Typhlosion got it. And I think a lot of these Pokemon are not going to be more relevant, but Ampharos, Gudra, and Typhlosion specifically, those already are very viable, and now they become even better. Ampharos, with that Brutal Swing, of course, already puts damage out so quickly, now becomes even better. Again, Lucario, Hitmonchan, all those kind of fragile Pokemon that, maybe become a little bit better, but I don't think very meta relevant. Same for Electivire, also is a Thundershock buff, of course, and Pachirisu is just on monotype electric, putting out monotype electric damage only. Does become better in its role, but just for like Open Grey League or play Pokemon is not going to be better there. And I'm also not sure if you want to run Thunder Punch over Superpower at this point on Chestnut, but regardless, Typhlosion looking even stronger now. And also Gudra. I really like it for that Pokemon because maybe now it can like win the zeros into Azumarill or make that even closer than it already is. So Thunder Punch, big. Ice Punch, in my opinion, is not going to make a lot of difference. Annihilape is getting nerfed in Rage Fist after 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks already. I guess that was it for Annihilape. But it does have access to Ice Punch. Same for Primeape, and they get buffed a little bit more. Prime also for Great League, by the way. I didn't put it there, but regardless. Haunter, think too fragile. There's a lot of normal and dark types in the meta, so even though I really like the buff in Shadow Punch and Ice Punch for Haunter, not going to be super good. We have Hypno again. Look, you really hate Altaria or Dragonite or Gudra. You run Ice Punch on Hypno. You do you, man. The one Pokemon benefiting this the most is Alolan Sandslash. Already was meta, is going to be even better now because its main charge attack right now is Drill Run, which is not the same type of attack bonus. It's just really efficient, and Ice Punch is really inefficient. With Ice Punch becoming a little bit better, we might see Alolan Sensor become even better than it already is. Bulldoze is really going to be a make it or break it moment for this attack. It's going from 80 damage to 45 damage, and the energy cost is going to be decreased. But right now it's 60 energy, and that needs to decrease a lot to make it worth big bulldoze over an attack like high horsepower or drill run. So this might honestly be completely irrelevant next week if bulldoze is still an attack that you don't want to go for. I think this is big for Munchlax. Munchlax already a decent Pokemon, to be honest, similar to like Greedent, bulky. Of course, Body Slam nerf hit it quite hard, but it's viable on there. Credilli is okay-ish. I'm not sure if you want to give up Stone Edge, Grass Knot there. Alone Sensors could be big again, but Drill Run helps almost one-shotting in the mirror. So if you need 2 attacks because the Bulldoze is going to do like 50% damage, might actually become worse. Maybe you want to go for Shadow Claw's Bulldoze for future scenarios on Alone Sensors, but I think Drill Run probably might be the way to go for those specific matchups. But we'll have yet to see, of course. Mew is interesting because this is actually the one of the very few ground type attacks that Mew can learn that might be ward learning. So that's why I see it as a new addition to Mew here. If Bulldoze becomes good, then it's a buff to Zygarde, which I'm not a fan of as well. Landorus does get buffed in it too, but it's unlikely you give up Sandsear Storm for it. I also have Celesteela and Bronzong on there, but I think Bronzong is just worse than other Pokemon like Hypno and Malamar in what it does, so I don't think it will be relevant. Celesteela actually has a really good defensive typing, but Air Slash is really holding it back. Then combined with Body Slam, or it's just not a great move set for it. As for other attacks, I'm not going through Thunder Shock because I love those Pokemon Learn Punches as well, and I'd have to figure out a specific individual matchup that might change for those Pokemon. Just think of this as a huge Azumarill and Feraligatr nerf, but that there's still Clotsai around to protect those, so we'll have to see how impactful that's going to be. I don't think it will matter a lot. Just might give Pokemon that rely on Thunder Shock a little bit of a better farm down. As for the attack availability updates, Dragalge Focus Blast is great for taking out Pokemon like Dunsparce or Ice types in one attack, but it takes too long to get to actually threaten Alolan Sandslash very well. So I don't think this will matter as much. Bibarel with rollout is huge. I love this. Also, a big nerf to Feraligatr because of double resist Shadow Claw and resist Hydro Cannon. Bibarel with rollout can take on Azumarill quite well and actually puts it in a pretty decent spot in the meta. Even though rollout is not the same type of attack bonus as like its fast attack Water Gun is, it actually, you'll find that it'll do better in those matchups with rollouts than it does with Water Gun. So I think Bibarel is actually a big one. I don't know if it will go straight to top meta, but I would not be surprised if it does actually. Uh, Gliscor learns Sand Attack now, and that's a really good update. A little bit of a Clodsire nerf there, and with Thundershock already nerfing Water-type Pokemon, Gliscor now is a little bit restored to its former glory when it had Wing Attack, but also not too much because it still doesn't have the Flying type damage output as much, which is widely unresisted right now. With Scent Attack, it does a little bit better into Alolan Sanchez, which kind of, on the other hand, still is a hopeless matchup, but the pacing on Scent Attack is also quite nice compared to Wing Attack. Starmie is a little bit of copium change. This makes Starmie one of the most wicked and diverse picks in formats where you can change the moveset before you see the matchup. But Starmie is really fragile still. I think it's like a little bit bulkier than Galvantula for comparison. So I'd like to see it first before I believe this guy over here. Finally, I think these are the big winners of the moveset update. Gliscor and Bibarel might enter the meta. I think Gliscor not immediately, but Bibarel might be pretty tempting to use. I can see a lot of usage for that Pokemon being very neutral into a lot of Pokemon in the current meta. Hypno buffed in many punches. Have yet to see if that is going to matter as much. Again, Drapion is a thing. It might just hard wallet, so may or may make it. Alolan Sanchez, a big buff. We'll have to see how Bulldoze will do for it, but Ice Punch buff is already big for it, so will be even better now. Zygarde buff, yes, unfortunate, if Bulldoze is going to be good. Diggersby is a big buff. We'll give it more play into its weak matchups, such as Superior and Alolan Sanchez, because if you have a really good Diggersby, I know you can make the zeros already really close with a slight energy advantage. Now you might be even able to win that. And then the other three Pokemon are really dependent on when you can change the moveset beforehand or not. Otherwise, I don't see them becoming top meta right away. Arcanine, maybe, if Bulldoze becomes really good. You might be able to run something like Fire Fang with Psychic Fangs and Wild Charge, which might actually be a pretty wicked moveset for quick damage output. But again, like I said at the start, Fire type is a pretty poor defensive typing. That's kind of a recap of what I noticed and what I read from this moveset update. I don't think there's going to be a lot of updates in what the top 12 meta usage is in the competitive circuit, maybe a little bit more in the Go Battle League. I think that Alolan Sanchez might definitely become more common, and I hope to see some Bibarel. Let me know your thoughts if you see anything you disagree or agree or have any other different thoughts on. And I hope you liked the video. See you in the next one.